You kiss someone hello. You kiss someone goodbye. You kiss someone you love without even thinking about it, without ever questioning why your lips are the ones doing the talking. It feels so natural, so instinctive, that we never stop to ask a simple question. Where did this even come from? Because here's the strange part. Kissing isn't universal. It isn't written into our DNA the way breathing or blinking is. Some cultures never developed it at all. Some animals don't do it either. So the question becomes far more interesting and far stranger than it first appears. When did the first human being press their lips against another? Why did it happen? And how did something so intimate become one of the most common gestures on Earth? The answer takes us through evolution, biology, disease, ancient rituals, empires, and even war. It's a story that has almost nothing to do with romance and everything to do with survival. Today, we uncover the surprising, hidden origin of the kiss. Let's start with something that will genuinely surprise you. Many scientists don't believe kissing is a natural human instinct at all. Anthropologists have studied cultures across the globe, comparing hundreds of societies from every continent, and they found something unexpected. Roughly 46% of the cultures studied showed no evidence of romantic kissing before contact with the outside world. Entire societies, for thousands of years, never once touched lips as a sign of affection. No lip kissing in courtship, no lip kissing between spouses, no lip kissing between parent and child. That means kissing isn't hardwired into every human brain from birth the way a smile or a cry is. It appears to be something we learned, something that spread, something closer to a cultural behavior we picked up over time rather than one we were simply born knowing how to do. So if it isn't pure instinct, where did it actually come from? To answer that, we have to go back much further than romance. We have to go back to survival itself. The leading scientific theory takes us to something far less romantic than you'd expect. It takes us back to feeding. Long before baby food existed in jars, long before soft mashed fruits were available in every kitchen, mothers across many ancient cultures had one reliable method to feed their infants solid food. They chewed the food themselves first, softened it thoroughly in their own mouths, and then passed it directly, mouth to mouth, into their infant's mouth. This wasn't affection in the way we think of it today. It was pure survival. Babies couldn't chew tough meat, fibrous roots, or hard grains, so this method, known today as pre-mastication, was often the only reliable way to get proper nutrition into a newborn during the critical early months of life. Now think about what that moment actually involved. Closeness of the face, warmth, the comforting presence of a parent, the physical safety of being fed by the very person keeping you alive. Scientists believe this simple, repeated act of mouth-to-mouth feeding may have created the very first association humans ever had between the closeness of lips and feelings of safety, comfort, and trust. Over countless generations, that association could have slowly evolved and transformed. What started purely as survival gradually shifted into affection. The mouth, once simply a tool for feeding a helpless infant, slowly became associated with love itself. In this theory, mouth-to-mouth feeding didn't just keep ancient children alive, it may have quietly planted the very seed for what we now call kissing. Remarkably, some researchers have even observed pre-mastication feeding practices surviving into more recent history, and in a handful of isolated communities, they still exist today, a living fossil of a behavior that may have started this entire chain of events. Here's something almost nobody realizes. In many ancient cultures, the earliest form of what we now recognize as a kiss wasn't about lips at all. It was about the nose. Anthropologists have documented what's called the sniff kiss, a gesture still practiced today in parts of the Arctic, across Southeast Asia, and among indigenous communities throughout the Pacific Islands. Instead of pressing lips together, people pressed their faces close and breathe in deeply, taking in each other's scent. This wasn't a lesser, simplified version of kissing. In many ways, it may have actually come first, long before lips ever entered the picture. Our ancient ancestors relied heavily on smell as a survival tool. Long before language, before written communication, before complex social structures, scent told early humans almost everything they needed to know about another person. Smell could reveal health, it could reveal illness, it could even reveal something as subtle as genetic compatibility, all without a single word being spoken.
Getting close enough to smell another person meant getting close enough to trust them completely.
It meant lowering your guard in a world where danger was constant. Some researchers believe the modern kiss actually evolved directly out of this ancient act of smelling a loved one up close, and only later, as human faces and social customs changed, did the gesture shift toward the lips themselves. Interestingly, this theory helps explain something that puzzled anthropologists for decades. Why do so many cultures instinctively close their eyes and lean in close during a kiss, engaging their sense of smell almost automatically, even though they're consciously focused on the physical touch of the lips? The nose, it seems, never fully forgot its original role. Now here's where the story becomes genuinely fascinating, and where modern science steps in with something remarkable. When two people kiss, they exchange far more than simple affection. They exchange saliva. They exchange bacteria. They exchange pheromones, invisible chemical signals that the human body reads and processes without us ever consciously realizing it's happening. Some evolutionary biologists argue that kissing developed, at least in part, as a way for early humans to unconsciously test genetic compatibility with a potential partner. Through taste and smell during close facial contact, the body could pick up on subtle immune system signals hidden in another person's biology. This allowed ancient humans to instinctively gravitate toward partners whose immune systems complemented their own, without either person having any conscious understanding of why. Why would this matter for survival? Because partners with different, complementary immune systems tend to produce children with stronger, more diverse immune defenses. Children far better equipped to survive the diseases and infections that were constantly threatening ancient populations. In this theory, kissing wasn't romance at all in the beginning. It wasn't poetry, and it wasn't love as we define it today. It was biology quietly doing its job behind the scenes, disguised so perfectly as affection that humans never even noticed the deeper evolutionary purpose hiding underneath. Modern researchers have even measured shifts in hormone levels during kissing, including changes in cortisol, the body's stress hormone, and oxytocin, often nicknamed the bonding hormone. A single kiss can lower stress and increase feelings of attachment within seconds, a biological reward system that may have reinforced this behavior across thousands of generations, encouraging our ancestors to repeat it again and again. So when does actual, historical, written evidence of kissing first appear in the archaeological record? The earliest confirmed written evidence comes from ancient South Asia, in Bronze Age texts dating back over 3,500 years. These ancient Sanskrit writings describe people, in their own words, sniffing with the mouth, and pressing their lips together as a clear gesture of deep affection between partners. From this early origin point, evidence strongly suggests the practice gradually spread westward across the ancient world, carried not through instinct, but through direct contact between different cultures. It's believed that when Alexander the Great's armies marched through South Asia and pushed into the Middle East, soldiers encountered this practice, adopted it, and carried it back with them, spreading it along the very same trade and military routes that connected the ancient world. The ancient Egyptians, interestingly, left behind hieroglyphics suggesting affectionate nose-touching and close facial contact between couples, evidence that closely mirrors the earlier sniff kiss tradition, long before lips became the dominant gesture in that region. The ancient Romans later took the practice and transformed it into something far more structured and codified than we might expect from an ancient civilization. Roman society actually recognized 3 distinct categories of kissing, each with its own name and its own social meaning. There was a kiss on the hand or cheek, reserved for friendship and formal greetings. There was a kiss on the lips, reserved for closer relationships between family and trusted companions. And there was a deep, passionate kiss, reserved exclusively for lovers and romantic partners. This tells us something genuinely important about how ancient humans viewed this behavior. Kissing wasn't simply felt in the moment and forgotten. In many ancient societies, it was carefully defined, deliberately ranked by intimacy, and understood as an entire unspoken language of its own, one that everyone in that society intuitively knew how to read. Now here's the part of the story that truly reshapes how we think about this entire topic.
Some ancient civilizations, and even some modern-day cultures, never developed romantic lip kissing at all. Instead, they expressed the exact same depth of affection through completely different physical rituals. In parts of ancient Polynesia and among certain indigenous groups, deep affection was expressed through nose rubbing, sometimes called the Eskimo kiss in modern popular culture. In other regions, gentle bites were used as an intimate gesture between partners. In others still, prolonged embraces, forehead touching, or even light, playful slaps serve the exact same emotional purpose that a kiss serves in Western culture today. This proves something genuinely powerful about human connection. Kissing was never a biological requirement for love, bonding, or intimacy. It was simply one option among many that different human cultures independently discovered, developed, and refined over thousands of years. And once discovered in one particular region, it slowly spread outward, carried by trade caravans, by conquering armies, by traveling merchants, and eventually by storytelling and literature, until it gradually became something close to a universal human gesture, though never quite reaching every single corner of the globe. Even today, in the 21st century, anthropologists can still find isolated communities where romantic lip kissing was completely unknown until very recent contact with the outside world, a living reminder that this behavior we consider so natural was, in truth, learned and spread like any other cultural tradition. There's a darker, often overlooked side to this story that rarely gets told. Because kissing involves the direct exchange of saliva, it also historically carried real, tangible risk. Ancient humans didn't understand germs. They had no concept of bacteria or viruses, but they still faced the very real consequences of them, even without the scientific language to explain what was happening inside their bodies. Illnesses could pass easily between two people through this simple, intimate act, and in tightly packed ancient communities where families and tribes lived in close quarters with limited hygiene, that risk mattered enormously. Historians have even pointed to specific outbreaks throughout history where close physical contact, including kissing, is believed to have accelerated the spread of certain illnesses through communities, sometimes with devastating consequences. And yet, despite this very real danger, humans kept doing it anyway, generation after generation. Despite the risk, despite having absolutely no medical understanding of why it sometimes led to sickness afterward, the emotional and social reward embedded in this behavior was powerful enough that it survived, spread, and eventually became deeply, permanently embedded in human culture across the world. This tells us something remarkable, almost poetic, about human nature itself. Even without understanding the biology behind it, without any scientific explanation available to them, our ancestors intuitively sensed that closeness, touch, and genuine connection were worth the risk involved. They chose intimacy over caution again and again across thousands of years. In more recent history, scientists have taken this ancient behavior and studied it far more closely than any previous generation. Researchers have discovered that a single kiss activates an astonishing number of nerve endings, with some studies estimating that human lips contain a higher concentration of sensory nerve endings than almost any other part of the body outside the fingertips. This explains why something as simple as touching lips together can feel so intensely powerful, both physically and emotionally. Scientists have also studied what's sometimes called the kiss test, observing that couples often unconsciously use a first kiss to gauge compatibility, sometimes even ending budding relationships based entirely on how that first kiss felt, without being able to fully articulate why. This has led some researchers to believe that ancient humans may have been using this exact same instinctive filtering system thousands of years before anyone understood the biology behind it, simply trusting the feeling itself as a signal worth listening to. So, after everything, when did ancient humans start first kissing? The honest answer is, we may never know the exact moment. There was no single instant frozen in time, no first kiss that historians can definitively point to and say, this is where it all began. Instead, it was something that emerged slowly, gradually, shaped by feeding, shaped by scent, shaped by biology, shaped by culture, and shaped by trust between two people who had no words yet to explain what they were feeling toward one another. What we do know with real confidence is this: long before poetry existed, long before love songs were ever composed, long before a single word for romance existed in any human language on Earth, Humans had already found a way to say, without speaking a single syllable, I trust you, I am close to you, I choose you above all others. The kiss wasn't born from pure biological instinct alone, and it wasn't born from pure culture alone either. It was born from something deeper than both, from connection itself, something ancient humans clearly understood mattered on some fundamental level, even if they never could have explained exactly why. And in a strange, quietly beautiful way, that's exactly what makes it so profoundly human. We didn't need biology to force this behavior on us the way it forces breathing or hunger. We simply chose closeness, again and again, generation after generation, until it slowly became part of who we are. This is the surprising, hidden origin of the kiss.